Good morning, everybody. Good morning, facility management professionals from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and the Netherlands. Most likely still people will be dropping in, but let's start. As I see, it's already 8 o'clock. It's a very interesting and special event organized by 4 different associations. IFMA Sweden, the DFM network, and sorry, Norwegians, I'm going to try to pronounce it. Norges Bygg og Eiendomsforening. I'm probably saying it wrong, but I'm going to try anyway. Last year, we did a very interesting research together regarding the use of technology in sustainability environments, and it was such a nice collaboration that we decided, well, we have to do more events together and share knowledge and see if there are differences and similarities between our 4 countries. So I'm very happy to welcome everybody here at this international webinar. The theme of the webinar is people work from home. Should we reduce square meters or not? It's going to be an interactive panel discussion. Well, I see from the people who are behind their cameras that most of you are still working from home. That probably will influence our work environments in the upcoming month and years, maybe. So it would be interesting to hear from our experts how they foresee the future workspace and what they expect. Are they going to reduce square meters? Are people going to work from home, or will everything be back to normal once we're reopening? I'm very proud to say we have 3 special speakers from different countries. We have Jacob Monsen from Denmark. He's the Senior Director of Services and Real Estate of Ørsted. Then we have Susanne Stenhager. She's from Sweden, and she's the Commercial Director of ISS Sweden. And we have André Salomonsen, who is from the Netherlands, and he is the owner and consultant at Wundershift. So welcome all 3 and welcome participants. It will be, as I said, an interactive discussion. So also the audience is invited to ask questions. You can use the chat, and you can also use the little hand on top. And if you want to say something or want to respond or ask a question. Rosemary will be watching the chat, so she will warn me when there's a question. So let's start. Let's start with Jacob. Jacob, you're the Senior Director of Services and Real Estate of Ørsted, and you're responsible for all the real estates globally and also all facility services. I'm very curious to hear what your opinion is and how the future workspace of Ørsted will look like.
Yes, thanks a lot. It's great to be here today, and I can see a lot of people are still coming in, so it's great. It's an important topic. It's I guess it's the top of mind of everybody. We don't really know what the future would look like, but we still have some ideas and some thoughts around it. We very much think that we are looking into a big transformation of our workplace, which is also part of my scope. We very strongly believe in that there are several models out there we have been investigating and looking into, but we very much believe in the freedom of choice, but under some parameters, under some frames. So we have literally been saying that, okay, what happens in the future? Everyone is forced home now. It very much from country to country. Some countries are locking down again out in APAC, and some countries like Denmark are opening up. So it's very difficult just to say something in general. But what we've been saying is that we have some different models. One of the model is that we could just go back as we used to. Everyone is in the office 5 days a week. We could also go the opposite way, which we're all used to now, 5 days at home a week. We don't think those models are the right ones. We think the first one, where we force everybody in, that will not be good, because a lot of people have experienced the flexibility of having a better work-life balance, being able to work from home. It has come with some costs. We can talk about that. That's the negative part from the individual people, but it's also come with some positives that we think people would like to keep. The flexibility, doesn't have to spend 2 hours commuting every day, having the possibility to watch the kids play tennis at 4 o'clock instead of being in the office and then work in the afternoon instead. And the opposite, where we said everyone should be at home 5 days a week, we don't think that works either, because then the culture would probably take a big hit in Ørsted. It would be difficult to get to know each other, to build up the trust. So we will start to collaborate and share knowledge, and more importantly, innovate together. We think that requires some physical time. So we said those are the two extremes. We don't like them. So we have said we want to do something in between. And then we've been looking at the different hybrid models. And one of the hybrid models is, as we have seen with some of the banks and insurance companies, especially in the Nordics, has been saying to people, you have to be at home 2 or 3 days a week. We think that is also wrong. We would much rather say to people, you're allowed to come in every single day if you want to. But if you would like to be home, then you should be at home maybe once or twice a week. And it has to be flexible. And it also has to be your choice. And that choice...
And Jacob, how will it look like if one of your employees will go to the office again? Will they see it the same office as it was a year ago, or do you implement changes?
From the outside, it would definitely look the same. We are keeping our major offices around the world, but inside, yes, we are doing some changes. We think that the purpose of the office is changing. The purpose is not so much about concentrating or sitting at a traditional work desk anymore, because that you can do from home if you need it. But of course, you have to do it a little in the office. But we think it'll be a lot more about collaboration, knowledge sharing, innovation, formal and informal meeting areas. So we are transforming our real estate portfolio around the world to accommodate more of these collaborative work, co-creation and conversations, as we call it.
So are you also redesigning the spaces then to support collaboration in a better way?
Yeah, we are definitely looking into that. We already had what is called activity-based working, which a lot of people know about, where we have already started to introduce different activities during the day, and then you had to have different settings. So we had some of it already, you could say, on the shelves that we could just use from. But we also have to rethink how we actually work. And now we're sitting in teams. So how do we make a good team experience, applying teams when you're both at home and in the office? That is something that we're still looking into and trying to figure out what is the best way.
Yeah. Thanks. Interesting to hear your thoughts, and also how you're trying to balance this flexible way of working. I'll come back to you. First, I would like to hear from Susanna. Susanna, welcome as commercial director of ISS. You're responsible for growth in Sweden. I'm also super curious to hear how all these new working concepts will influence suppliers and services like catering and cleaning and so on.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when the pandemic hit us, we of course immediately saw completely different needs from our clients. And I mean, in the very beginning, it was very much focused on, solving the crisis here and now. For example, providing, contamination cleaning if you had a client with an outbreak on a site, for example. But of course, I think now, if we start with cleaning, for example, we can see a trend that it's not only about increasing frequencies, it's about changing the way you look at cleaning as a service. It's no longer just a commodity where you try to procure it at the lowest price. Now it's extremely important that for our clients that they ensure trusted spaces so that the employees feel safe. Because in Sweden, we haven't had the complete lockdown that many other countries have had. So actually, a lot of people have been working in the offices during the last year and a half. But still, I mean, anxiety and stress levels have, as we all know, skyrocketed since the outbreak. And we need to go more to visible cleaning, focusing on hygiene and wellness. So we've, of course, done a lot of, investment in new innovations on methods to some technology to provide this safe environment.
It's interesting that you mentioned this, be a visible cleaning.
Yes.
As you mentioned it. Yeah.
So, for example, instead of having cleaners in during nighttime, we provide, for example, hygiene stewardess who are visible, going around, cleaning buttons, surfaces, etc. And that's a way to, first of all, of course, ensure that it's a safe environment, but also to instill that sense of of security for the customers' employees. Yeah.
So it will definitely influence your services, and do you also design new services, new products, new business models, and so on?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, looking at, for example, the area of food, I mean, our lunch restaurants became completely empty when COVID hit us because everybody or many were working from home. So we started thinking about, how can we provide this service to the people who are actually working from their home. In Sweden, it's slightly complicated because we do not subsidize, an employer is not able to subsidize meals without the employee being taxed for it. So that is, and we have other options such as Foodora in the market. So instead of kind of providing meals to the homes, we either offer it, for example, you can go to the reception and pick it up for today or next day, or we can share, healthy and nutritious recipes to the employees so that they can prepare and cook their meals themselves at home. So you can do. It's more, I would say, we're going more into the digital arena in terms of new services and how we can help our clients in ensuring the best workplace experience possible.
Okay, so it will not only influence the services that you offer and deliver in the office buildings, but also like at home.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Cool. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit more later on because I'm very curious to hear more about that. But first, let's welcome André. André, good morning. You're a consultant and the owner of Wonder Shifts, and you guide organizations and help them and advise them in more complex and strategic issues and questions. And you've been involved with questions like this. What do you think? Are we going to indeed work more from home and therefore will be able to reduce square meters, or I think you're still muted. So.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely work more from home. Also, maybe more from different places. So sometimes I work from a summer cottage or from a hotel or wherever I want to be. So there will be there will be more flexibility. But that means also that the workplace will have to offer more functions. There must be more flexibility. So that has not a causal effect or relationship directly with reducing square meters. But the clear objective from this era or this pandemic crisis is, of course, that we have learned that the workplace is really meaningful. It is powerful for people, for organizations, and for the society. So the FM community, we have the Corona gave us a very the Corona crisis gave us a gift. People understand the importance of the workplace, and that gives us also directly a responsibility not only to transform the workplace, but also to transform our way of managing workplaces. And I think that will be the biggest change. For instance, Jacob said we have a lot of scenarios and we actually don't know what we are going to. So we need to be more adaptive. We need to think about the real value of the workplace. So there where we were focusing on managing services or building offices or workplaces, or being focused on and doing our work from a perspective of a buyer, we need to learn to work as a strategic designer to make the real fit in a workplace for people, for the organization, but also for the society. But if you look at the social development goals which are facing us, and we see which impact the workplace can have on it. So the FM community has a big responsibility for these groups, organizations, people, and the society. And that means that we have to take this strategic design processes really seriously. So not focusing on less square meters or more square meters, but the real meaning for all the people. And then you get the right business case also. And I think that
and
is
how do you do that? I think it's a very interesting approach to see it more like as a strategic designing a challenge. But how would you do that?
First of all, you have to focus and really investigate the real meaning of the workplace for the people who work in your organization, the organization itself, and what your organization wants to, and which impact your organization wants to have on the society. For instance, a work-life balance is also a thing. It's a responsibility for in the society, so we can take better care of our children, that we can focus on education, and that we can do other things to reduce mobility. It's a responsibility which we have for our society and for our earth. So we have a lot of value to give from this workplace perspective. So the first thing you have to do is not look at services or look at workplace square meters or whatever, but what people really need, not only in a functional way, but actually in an effective way. What do people need at home to do their work good? We accept a lot of things, but if you really look at the square meters, the moment we expect from people that they will work at home 2 or 3 days or whatever way, or in which way, then we will have to manage in 4 square meters extra at home, because we have to look after that. If it's good, if there is a suitable work environment to do your work, so you don't get sick, you don't get mentally ill, that you can focus on your roles as a daddy, as a mama, and all these other things. And not all, we can't do it all. So we'll have to really start to understand what workplaces need. And
if you look at the models that Jacob presented, like forcing people to, or requesting them to work 1 or 2 days at home, or forcing them to go to the office, or something in between.
I don't think that force will ever help. If I look at my own situation, if an employer would ask me to work at Wednesdays, if I have to work at home on Wednesday, I will have to find another job, because Wednesday is a day I can't be at home.
Can I chip in here? If it's okay, Rand?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
We didn't say force people. That was exactly the opposite we want to do. It's give people the freedom of choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually to say to them, we don't.
I understood it like that also. Yeah.
But exactly, so that's the point, to say that you have to agree with your closest manager or your immediate manager how we would look for you, but we like to give you the freedom of choice. But we don't like the extremes. We don't like everyone just being at home 5 days a week. We don't like everyone being in the office 5 days a week. We want to have something in between. That's the frames that we're putting up. But then you have the freedom of choice within that. And then some weeks you might want to go in 5 days, and the next week you want to be home 3 days. That's the freedom of choice we like to give people. That, of course, makes it really difficult to make a strategic view, Andre, because it's also what is possible.
Exactly. It's also what is possible.
We do have the leases, so we have to figure out what can we do in different environments and different cultures, because the cultures are different around the world as well. So there are a lot of things that we really have to think in, and we have to go a lot more ad hoc in the individual buildings, what is actually possible here, and also what is the culture.
I totally.
I will be. You mentioned also the square meters at the home office. I'm very curious to hear more about that. But first, Jacob, now we're at you. I was also curious if you hear what Anna said, like involving the users and looking at their specific needs. How do you do that?
It's easily said, but it's extremely difficult to do because how many users should you involve? We have tried, when we will talk about the home office later, I know, where we have actually made a complete, it's up to the individual. But when we go into the offices, we have to sort of like stereotype a bit. So what we're trying to do is work with different kind of personas, what kind of type of people you are. But it's not just your job content who tells it. It's also what kind of people you are, what kind of person you are. Because you could have 2 people doing the same job content, but one of them is extremely introvert and the one is extremely introvert, and one have 2 kids at home like I do, then you have different things you have to figure into this. So we are trying to do some different personas, and then we try to see if we can figure out how many of the different personas we do have. And then we try to, on the big scale, to design the entire building using those personas. It's it is not easy and it's not beautiful, I would like to say, but that's what we're trying right now.
And do you see big differences worldwide? Is this situation different in London than in Denmark?
Definitely. We have also what we call the metropolitan part of the equation. And when we have metropoles like we have in London, we have in Chicago and Boston, people could spend up to 1.5, 2 hours commuting, just going to the office, and then you have to do the same going back. And there we have actually opened up for even more flexibility and say that this is special cases where we also need to figure out if we can look at some closer hubs rather than just big offices downtown London or whatever it could be. So we have to figure that in. And I can tell you both London, Stockholm and Amsterdam, in my view, are not metropoles. That's just small cities. Even though we think it's very annoying sitting 45 minutes in a car, I know, but that's just how it is.
Susanna, how is that for you? We mentioned a few times that we basically don't really know how the situation will be, and that we have to stay flexible and use different scenarios and so on. How do you see that? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, exactly. Just firstly, I'd just like to comment that I completely agree with Andre and Jacob on your thoughts on how to create, value of the workplace, so to speak. And I think we should also reflect a little bit about the fact that even before COVID hit us, we saw many organizations shifting away, focusing, their corporate real estate and FM strategies on the physical buildings, and more towards focusing on the people who use the buildings. So I think going forward, we are all aware that we need to create a workplace that will be worth the commute of 45 minutes or 2 hours, depending on what city you are in, so to speak. And it must be more collaborative and engaging, because if we cannot deliver employee satisfaction, the people will simply choose to work remotely. So just a comment on that. So I think that's really interesting that you have come to the same conclusion. But I think, are we going back to the office or not? I mean, that's $1 million question. Of course, COVID-19 has proven that for many of us, not all of us, we should also say, because remote working is not possible for all types of jobs or all types of people, but that for many of us, it's actually working. And we should not be surprised, because the tools have been there for quite some time. So I think it's tempting for companies to conclude that workplaces are no longer relevant. But what you really miss out is what you guys both have talked about is, how do we build the corporate culture? Gathering in the workplace has always been central to building and maintaining company culture, and the workplace can be seen as a catalyst for that. And we also can see in several surveys that employees want to return to the office. Maybe not 100%, but the majority wants to at least spend some days of the week together physically with their colleagues.
Yeah, that's a good point that you raised about the culture and the importance of the office environment, actually. I'm curious to hear Andre's opinion on that, but first I would like to invite everybody who is listening, please use the chat or ask questions. If you have questions for Jacob or Susanna or Andre, please let us know.
Well, we got a question for Andre in the chat, and it was referring to your before when you and the question is, how do you perform the investigation, different approaches? I assume it is the investigation of what people really need from the workplace.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Yeah, who asked the question?
Mia Loberg.
Yes, it's me. Hello.
Oh, me.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more about what you really mean with your question? How do you perform the investigation?
Sorry. So you spoke about the real value of the workplace, and you need to investigate.
Yeah.
And you talked about strategic designing as well. So how do you approach such an investigation? Do you have different approaches? Is it interviews with people, or is it demographics, or how do you make that happen? Very curious to understand. Thank you.
A few approaches on that. We use, for instance, tools from brand management. Brand has a value, so a building can also have a value. So we have moderated that in an analog way. So if you can investigate brand value, then you can also investigate workplace value as a concept. So that's one. The other thing is that we really start to we take also other things in encounter, like we don't do just interviews in the sense of what people want. So we don't do customer surveys. We will do them, but it's a small part of the real investigation. What we do is we start to understand what the human being needs as a social being. So we take things in account which we won't hear or which people won't say. For instance, the fear of missing out. People won't say, I will go to the office. I have to go to the office because otherwise I can't make a career. People won't say that in the survey. We have done a lot of research in things like, what do people need to collaborate with each other? What is the function of the building or the workplace in collaboration? And how do you organize that? So we firstly taken a complete holistic way. So first we're going to start in, what is this organization about? Not about what people need, but what does this organization stand for? Why are they there? What is the real meaning of it? Then we start to look at, where do we see it? Where's the real how do you call it? Bewijs?
Proof.
Yeah, where's the real proof that this is where the organization stands for? And what is the promise of the organization to their customers? And what is the real value of it? Why is it important? And then we translate that actually to what would the promise of the organization be, which promise we have to make to people, the organization, and the society, if we look at the workplace as a complete service. And then we start to build a concept which is not about what is happening there, but what is the promise of the work of the organization, and what's the promise of the workplace to all the people who use it, and the promise of the workplace to society, and the promise of the workplace to the organization, and the promise to the other thing. And then we can make these causal relationships between the workplace and what people have need in their primary work, what people need as a social being. For instance, if we look at work in a functional way, then a lot of work can be done from at home. But some of our work we do at home now. And if you ask people, can you do your work at home? Yes, of course. But but many people of us go to work because it's not about the work which is so interesting, but being with other people is interesting. So we need to take those two things in encounter. So what do people really need? Functional. What's the functional need to do your work? What do you need as a social being? And what is the effective, not effective, but what's the attraction need we have according to all these functions? And what we do in facility management, we only look mainly at functional needs. We need a place to do our work, or we need a computer, a phone, and other things. But really to understand what human beings need and to take that in encounter in your strategic decisions, that's one. And then we build dashboards to make these causal relationships so that you can make clear decisions. Yeah.
Anna, Susanna also mentioned culture as an important aspect. Do you also incorporate that in your approach?
Yeah, of course, because that's what people need. organizations build culture. We want to standardize our organizations in a formal and informal ways to enable us to get the results for our customers. And people need interaction to build cultures. And we need to be. We can't have all the discussions from in a way like this. So yes.
And Jacob, how do you do that?
Can I maybe just add something to that discussion, if it's okay? Because Andre, you're completely right in everything you're saying. But I think the last part of the equation also needs to be mentioned is that when people do socialize, that's also when you start to build trust.
Exactly.
And that's extremely important because we are working a lot with knowledge management, knowledge sharing, and innovations. And it's only when you have high trust in people that you actually start to share knowledge. You want to share knowledge. You want to share that stupid, crazy idea you have. You don't want to share it with a stranger over Teams. You want to share it with someone in person that you trust and know. And the innovation works. That's probably the most important part of any company, because that's what puts the bread and butter on everything in a couple of years. Because if you don't innovate, you just die out in the long run. So it is extremely hard. So you can link it back, the socializing, the culture. You can link it back to innovation, which is literally what keeps the company alive when you look a little further ahead than just a couple of years.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. I completely
agree. Then you can link it all, and then it's easy to go to the executive committee and actually explain to them why socializing, culture, and not just the functional need, but also the social needs are important. Because otherwise, it's just a matter of time. Then we stop innovating, and then we can measure that as well. I can tell you.
You can make a complete business case. All of that.
Jacob, could you share some examples of how you ensure that this innovative and collaborative environment stays in place?
Now I'm going back to being a facility manager. I hope it's okay. Yeah. That's how we make room for it. We actually make room for it in our buildings. That you do have these informal areas, that you do have a very nice coffee machine that everyone wants to walk a little further to visit, that you do have some breakout areas connected to it, that you have a lot of meeting rooms, and some of them are formal, you have to book, but a lot of them are informal that you can just use ad hoc. That you do have a nice restaurant and a cafe area where people would like to spend some time and have that chance encounter, because it is when you have that chance encounter that you share knowledge and learn about something else that is happening somewhere else that you might be able to use. So it is actually to take that time and make sure that it's not just a lot of open plan offices and single cell offices, that you have all of these other parts. And I know it's very facility management and it's very functional, but that's one of the things that we're doing. Yeah. Then, of course, we're also trying to encourage people to also do other kinds of stuff. It could be that we have a wine club, that we have a lottery every now and then, that we have a Christmas cabaret. So it is also something that we are actually driving from facilities and real estate. It is a lot of these clubs and possibilities to meet other people. So that's some of the things that we're doing.
So that's all these social elements as well. Yeah. I'm super curious how it will be like. I have to think back of like the wave we had in the 90s when in finance and especially in tech IT companies, it was more common to work from home. You had the digital nomads working from everywhere. Yeah. But then in the mid 90s, companies like IBM and Yahoo said, well, everybody has to come back to the office because of this. We're lacking the culture, innovation is missing, and everybody has to come back right now. So yeah, let's see how it will work out.
No, but it is trends. The interesting part is if you just go back, I think 5 years, Andre, we talked about the trophy office. Yeah. What would the future trophy office look like so we could get people to come in? Yeah. And now we're literally living it. Everyone was talking about that would be 2030 or something. Now it's 2021 and we're discussing how do we get people in. So that is, I think it's great to have this small crisis, sorry to say, but it makes it a lot more vibrant. And I have to admit, I like to be head of real estate and head of workplace management, and I would hate to be head of remote workplace management. I would like to have an office and get people in. That's my own hidden agenda.
And I think the remote workplace, sorry.
You also mentioned in the beginning that you see the home office or the square meters at home as part of the of the part of facility management, and that kind of triggered me. How do you see that of home office? Is it like the responsibility of facility management to facilitate that?
It's actually a responsibility of companies. I am an entrepreneur. I'm also an employer, and the Dutch law says to me that I have to look after it. So the moment it's an obligation or it's really expected, then it's an obligation, and then I'm responsible and I'm accountable for the for the health of my employees. So I have to look after it. The moment we expect people to work from home or remote, it will be a formal part of the workplace, and in Dutch law, I'm responsible that it has all the facilities, and it has all the and it has the environment that people can work in a healthy way,
and how do you then,
and mentally.
Yeah,
physically and mentally.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I mean, you have so many unexpected factors at home with the kids and other people living in the same home, and also different needs, I would say. And I think the balance between the user needs and like what the company wants is very interesting.
That's a balancing act. For instance, in our own company, we have said of course we work from home. We are allowed to work from home also in the future. But if you work at home, you must always be able to go to a customer or to go somewhere else. So working at home doesn't mean that you are stuck. Working at home it's not allowed in my company to combine the responsibility for children and to be at home. Of course, in circumstances when they are sick and whatever, that's exactly the flexibility you want to have. But in a structural way, we don't want to accommodate that, because then people really get into loyalty conflict. And if people get into loyalty conflict, I have to work on that paper. It should be 3:00 in the mail of I have to mail it this afternoon, but my child has some friends over and they are breaking up their room. And loyalty conflict, that's actually something which we really have to understand as a facility management community in a much better way, because in many cases people get burned out from that. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have a role as a dad, I have a role as an employer, I have a role as a husband. And the moment it comes together at home, all these different roles, because then I can't switch off my work, or I can't switch off my responsibility as a father, then people get sick. That's also the reason people get burned out. Not because they work hard, but you can't switch off, literally. And
Susanna,
of course,
Susanna, I see a lot of opportunities, but also challenges for you guys here. If you look at the home office, you already briefly mentioned it at the beginning. Is it even possible to offer standardized services at home?
Yes, it is definitely, and I think it's the same in Sweden, Andre. That the responsibility legally as for an employer is to if we say that people should work from home, we need to ensure the right work environment there, both physical and mental, as you mentioned. And a lot of people of our, many employees have worked from home now this year, and we are supporting our clients in the best possible ways. There are, of course, simple things that, we can ensure that you have the right office supplies at home. So you have your papers, you have your pens, you have, your folders, whatever, and we can distribute that. We've done a lot of work related to ensuring, moving of desks, screens, chairs, etc. Because that is a service that many employers have offered to their employees. We have, for example, also just recently launched a new service called digital mail and package service, because if you're not in the physical building and you receive a physical letter, it's not that common anymore, but actually it happens. But even more common is that you actually get a physical package. So then we can help out in either, if it's a letter, we can open it, scan it, and send it digitally, or we can forward it to the home address. And the same is with packages. But also what we've done is sent home, cleaning kits for the home office with focus on hygiene. So with sanitary kits, with this gels, etc., so that people can make sure that their workplace is a safe environment in terms of COVID. But I think even more, as I mentioned, it's a lot of digital things we're doing also. How can we help share tips and tricks on ergonomics in the home office? Not sit at the same, kitchen table chair every day, but to move around and stand up during the day. I mentioned earlier sending home recipes and then maybe also sometimes sending home the ingredients to do that. Arrange home workouts, yoga sessions, etc. Because that's the way we can at least tap into some of the corporate culture building activities that we normally do physically in the office. And they're truly craving these type of initiatives. So maybe a year ago, not that many would attend a physical yoga session in the office, but many more now joins it digital, because then you have an hour together with someone doing something together.
Yeah, I recognize that. We have the same at our office. We I think now for the third time, we organized what we called an energizing week with all kinds of activities like dancing, yoga, painting, cooking together. The catering staff was giving cooking lessons. One of my Brazilian colleagues was giving salsa lessons, and it was very fun. It was really, it was both really energizing in literally, but also made us feel more connected and part of the family. And I see tons of opportunities there, Susanna.
Yes. We just need to be, open-minded and innovative. And of course, that's a challenge because we are also working from home. So, but yes, definitely. And we're transforming quickly in the industry, I think. So. Yeah.
We actually have a question in the chat regarding this. Is it if it's anyone in the panel that believe that it's possible to develop the skill set that makes it possible to build trust culture and innovation in the virtual workplace? Can you work only virtual and still build this trust culture?
Yes, of course you can do that. It just takes longer. I've been used to working remote teams for more than a decade now, having people sitting around the world. Some of my facility managers, I only saw them 2 times in 4 years because they were sitting in Mexico. It just takes longer time. Of course, you can build trust. It just takes longer time. That's the only thing. And if you do some of this, as Susanne said, some of the salsa lessons together, or drink a virtual cup of coffee, as we try to do now and then, or have a walk and talk, even though we're in different continents, it speeds it up a bit. But it just takes longer time. That's literally our learnings.
And I think to add to that, I think you need to have a much more structured approach, because it will not happen by itself in the digital world. So you really need to have a strategy to ensure that you create that arena or digital arena for your employees.
I would also say that the teams that we're sitting in now helps a lot. Just go back a couple of years, then it was more common to have conference calls and other kind of interactions. But this is where you're possible to see each other's faces and mimics. It makes it a lot easier. But it's also the curse, as Andre talked about before, because now you can work always. Before it was easy. I'm in the office, I'm working. Now I'm home with my kids sick. Now I'm not working. But now you can work from home because everyone has gone digital. So now you can always work even though the kids are sick. So we have to be better at also saying stop, both as an employer but also as an employee. Maybe just what Susanne and Andre talked about, we have taken it a step further. It's not just a responsibility, it's also a huge opportunity with these home offices. We have started to equip and provide home offices. We already started December last year to do that. And more than half of all our employees now around the world actually have home offices. And we provide both height adjustable chairs and what we call desks, but also some different opportunities if you're working from your bed all the time. Some people are actually doing that, especially in Kuala Lumpur, because they're living 5 people in a very small flat. So we have been able to make some ideas on how you can sit in a bed and also work with some special tables. And if you don't have the space for a height adjustable table, then you can get a box that are height adjustable that can work similar. And that's actually has caused that people are extremely happy about it, that we actually take it serious, that we are also trying to do the other things, as you talked about, Susanne, to get people to move during the day. But actually providing ergonomic chairs and tables have been extremely positive. And we can also see it in applications. Last summer, maybe 50 people will be applying for an IT job in Kuala Lumpur. Now we will have more than 500 for the same job because they know we offer flexibility and a home office and we equip it. It's become an extremely important parameter or differentiator for us when we're actually recruiting. So it's not just a responsibility, it's also a huge opportunity.
And would you also see yourself offering facility services like cleaning at home, a lunch at home, those kind of things?
You never know. I would honestly say I hope not, because we have a wonderful Just Eat app right in both Netherlands and Sweden and Denmark. And if we will start to compete with the Just Eat or something like that, I don't think we will win that battle. I think it's important to have the possibility, the flexibility, but we would also make sure that people would like to come in to get that nice meal in the office. So maybe that's one of the tricks that we can apply in the future. We learned when we presented cake last week in the office, we actually more than twice as many people showed up.
Oh, wow.
So maybe it's not so good if they get cake every day at home. That's another issue.
And how about those mental aspects that Andre also mentioned? Like, do you facilitate those kind of things as well, or do you protect your employees when working at home?
We have tried to do it together with our QSSE organization, Quality, Health and Safety and Environment organization. They have an extremely high focus on that together with our people and HR organization. But we have been providing them with statistics about how many people are actually working on teams for how many hours, because that we can actually measure and see, and also how many people who have ordered home equipment and how many who hasn't ordered, because some countries are better than doing this than other countries. And then they have actually tried to target some of these different things, saying that we should introduce more walk and talk. We have yoga in the morning or teams in the morning. And so the cooking part, I haven't tried yet, Susanne. I think it's a wonderful idea. Let's see if we can actually steal that, because that could be quite fun, I assume.
And if we go back to the
you're making your campus very nice. Yeah.
And if we go back to the $1 million question, Jacob, if we add all the things that we discussed, working from home, at the office, are you going to reduce square meters, or is it going to stay the same, or maybe even more? Or how do you see that?
We see two different scenarios because we will be using less square meters per person, because traditional desks takes up more space than these collaboration areas. That's just a fact. So we will be using into fewer square meters per person. And then we have said we have two different scenarios. One is that we can grow. We are growing roughly 10 to 15% on our employees every year. So that growth we can actually keep within our existing portfolio. And then when we have some special cases where we're not growing, then we will be looking into seeing if we can get rid of some of the square meters. It's also a combination, because it is trying to get rid of some of the square meters downtown London and maybe look at what can we do outside London, some hubs and other opportunities. So that's how we pursue it. I don't think it's a lot. We're looking into 10 to 20%. That's what we think that we'll be reducing. Yeah, both yes and no. It depends on how you view it. But we think we will change and transform the existing square meters into more collaborating spaces, and it just takes fewer square meters if you look at the entire portfolio. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah,
you would like to grow the square meters you said earlier. So.
No, The thing is that if you take because that is actually what we're talking about. If the objective is to reduce square meters due to the fact that we are going to work in a different way, then I think that's not the way to look at it. Yeah, you have to see, what do you really need? What is the purpose? What is the value? Mm-hmm. And if it's possible to reduce square meters or to use square meters more effectively, then it's okay. But the fact that if you say, due to the fact that we are going to work more from home, we are going to reduce square meters, that's a causal relationship I don't see, due to the fact that we will have more functions. We really don't see what really is going to happen. People work from home now because they have to, and they make the best of it. So we also have this group think, I have to like it because otherwise I can't do this for a year. After COVID, or after the when we are all vaccinated, because COVID will stay, then we will get new needs. We will of course we will work more from home. But on the other hand, if you look at flexibility, then there is always people in the office. There's always people somewhere else. So and flexibility will also take his part in square meters and other things. So I think there is also a likelihood that due to the fact that we are going to use our workspace in a different way, we need more functions. Because we also have, when you are in the office, you also have to have your place to do your Zoom meeting in your own cabin. So so there will be more functions, and maybe those more functions will add up to more square meters. And due to the fact that if people are going to work at home, we also have to take responsibility for those few square meters at home. So if you take that in account with the 20% or whatever, maybe it's the same, or maybe it will add up. But I think it's a very risky. All organizations which are doing this with the objective or the intended result to reduce square meters, I think they are on a dangerous path.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I've seen some companies who said this is a cost out exercise, and they are hurting right now. They can't get people back in the office. I won't mention any names, but there are some banks who are doing this, and it's just stupid. And Andre, I don't know if you know, but in the Swiss Supreme Court actually ruled last year that if people are forced to work from home, you also have the responsibility to start paying them lease for that room that you're using. So I think you're right, I think, but thank God it's only Switzerland so far. I'd hope it's not going to be around Europe, because then I have to manage another 6,000 to 10,000 leases, and that's probably going to be a bit of.
I think we will get that due to the fact that people will see their energy bill. For instance, if you work 2 days a week in a week at home, so then your home will function 16 hours a week more in those 8 hours, warmth, etc. That's 80 hours a month. That is almost 1,000 hours energy expenses a year. Yeah. And when people get their bill and they are asked to, then then these negotiations will start. It's actually a scenario which we will.
Unfortunately, Andre, you missed the last.
Right, Andre. We already have those discussions. I can tell you in some countries.
Of course.
So,
unfortunately, we're running out of time. I see it's already almost 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. I think in hindsight, we can all agree that flexibility is key in this sense, that there are certain scenarios that we can take into account. It's very interesting to see how the home office will develop, and but we will never know for sure until we get there. So we have to stay agile and adapt to the needs of the users. I have one last question for all three speakers. This is the last call for everybody to ask a final question in the chat. My final question to you guys is do you have a last key takeaway or a special advice, something that people can start doing today, or something concrete? Susanna.
Yes, I think what you should start doing, if you haven't done it already, is that you need to recognize the changes in the employees' demands and expectations, and allowing employees back into offices without visible changes will create distrust and lack of engagement. So you need to, as you said, Andrea, you need to conduct this survey. You need to truly design your workplace strategy and be prepared that the needs will be different tomorrow compared to today.
Yeah, thanks. Jacob?
Yeah, I think Susanne said more or less it all. I would just say this is both a responsibility but also an opportunity. So take it. It's an easy way to get some time with the executive management, the board of directors, to actually do a real impact on culture and on society, as Andrea also puts. And then remember, we've been working with this for the last 10, 15 years. So when you look at it, keep an open mind, but not an empty head.
Yeah, thanks. André?
Yeah, okay, much is said. See it as a gift, but we start to work with value in mind.
Yeah.
Start to really study the human as a social being and about human behavior. We really have to understand it, and then we can really create value. And then we are not going to, in the future, we are not going to talk about how much a square meter will cost us, but how much revenue a square meter gives us and how much value a square meter gives us.
Mm-hmm.
So we and I think we have to switch that mindset. So don't look at the cost of a square meter, but the value of a square meter.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
Then, and then
I think that's
all
a perfect
greatness will come to you. Yeah.
Perfect perfect summary. Like focus on the value and look at the opportunities this new situation might bring us. Rosemary, do you see a final question?
No further questions. Just a confirmation that digital cooking is a great way to
Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, speakers, for sharing your insights. It was very interesting to hear. And as mentioned in the beginning, the webinar is recorded, so you will be able to watch it back or listen to it or share it with your friends and colleagues. And for now, I wish you a very, very good day and a beautiful future.
Thank you. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.